We're gonna die first.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Stranger Catholicism. This is my new podcast. It has taken off like wildfire. We're almost in double digits in our views. So I thank you all for the support. I wanted to make just a quick video today because I have been thinking a lot lately about what's the perfect way to introduce Fulton Sheen into this podcast. And what I realized is I can't do the perfect way of bringing Fulton Sheen into this podcast because I will overanalyze it if I try and do that. Fulton Sheen is a big influence of mine. He's my favorite author. When my wife and I started dating, just like normal people, after 2 or 3 weeks, we had picked out our children's names. At least our first boy we knew we were gonna name him Fulton. And then we had to wait a super long time till we finally had a son, named him Fulton. His readings, or reading his books rather, shaped me a lot personally, and I'm really just constantly looking for ways to sort of bring out kind of the beauty and the genius of Fulton Sheen in all of the work that I do. I'm constantly talking about him or thinking about him, reading his stuff, reading about him. So I don't know what's the perfect way to really actually introduce him, but I recently saw a documentary about Sylvester Stallone, Rambo, Rocky, and played other characters, and I thought this is the way I'm going to do it. It's not the perfect way, maybe, but I watched this documentary about Sylvester Stallone, about his career, his creative process. Really, I learned a lot about him. I mean, I've seen the Rocky films and some of the Rambo films, and Cliffhanger and Demolition Man and just tons of his movies over the years. Didn't know much about him personally, much about his life or his background. And so, I picked up quite a bit about his background. And there was one thing, a common theme that runs throughout this entire documentary, which it's on Netflix right now. And it's this quest for, I would say, this quest for more, or the chase for infinity. So evidently Sylvester Stallone, early in his career, trying to make it as an actor, like many actors, wasn't very successful. He wasn't getting really any consideration as a sort of a starring main character in any productions. He was doing a lot of low-level films, off Broadway plays, the typical sort of struggle, right? And so at the beginning of his career, he has this desire to do better, to do more, to be something more. Apparently he's a writer, which I really didn't know. I knew he wrote Rocky, but evidently his writing is a hobby that's extended quite far beyond just writing Rocky. It's something that he was obsessed with for a very long time. And so because he was struggling so much as an actor, he really just turned on to the writing and decided maybe I can write a movie and then I can work my way into playing the starring role of the movie. And that's, of course, the story of Rocky. Now, like Rocky, the character, Stallone goes from this basically completely unknown guy to instant celebrity, very, very successful, very popular, and he has everything that he ever wanted. And that's where Stallone as the person really entered into a completely new type of struggle. So he knew the struggle of, I've only got $100 and my rent's $300. What am I going to do? I'm trying to become an actor and nobody will take me seriously. That's like regular struggles that probably everybody knows. He knew that very well, but then he moved out of that into the struggles of fame and celebrity and success. And he says it at many points in the documentary that he didn't know that there was a dark side to success, or that there was a dark side to popularity. And he didn't mean the temptations to, drugs or wasting your money or all those sorts of things. What he meant was that he never imagined that when his dream came true, and he says it this way, that when my dream came true, I didn't know that really wasn't my dream, or that my dream was gonna be like that. So he says, you want to get to the top of the mountain? It's really not that great. he puts it very poignantly, and I guess his background as a writer kind of shines through a little bit when you realize how serious he took his writing. He said that at the top of the mountain, okay, it's a beautiful view, but the air is thin. It's precarious. You can fall off. It's lonely. There's no one there. And he goes on to describe that after the success of Rocky, immediately there's questions about, was this guy a fraud? How did he pull this off? Can he do it again? So he's got to prove himself again and again to himself, and increasingly he feels like he had to prove himself to others. Okay, so that's a quick summary of this Sylvester Stallone documentary. What does that have to do with Fulton Sheen? Well, one of my favorite books from Fulton Sheen is this delightful volume, 3 to Get Married. I was fortunate enough to get to read this entire book in adoration over the period of several weeks when I was able to go to adoration every day. I was in the seminary. My wife now gave me this book for my birthday, and I read it in the seminary in adoration and realized, oh, this is my vocation, is to marry the girl that gave me this book. So it's Fulton Sheen's book on marriage, 3 to Get Married. In this book, a lot of great things happen, and I think at some point I'd like to really do a sort of exhaustive treatment of kind of chapter by chapter what's the genius at the core of this book. This is my favorite book on marriage, and I've read a lot of stuff on marriage. But there's one thing here, this kernel that is, as I was watching Stallone's documentary, I kept coming back in my mind to it's Fulton Sheen, man. If Fulton Sheen could have met Sylvester Stallone in the 70s, he could have saved him, a lot of heartache. And that's the idea that we have within us as human beings this natural desire for something that goes beyond, something that is more. There's a desire for infinity written on the human heart. Stallone becomes a world-famous celebrity. He's rich. He's, got accolades in Hollywood. And he realized it wasn't enough. All of us, even if we don't achieve Sylvester Stallone's level of notoriety, are going to, throughout our lives, have something that we think we want. Maybe eventually we get it, and then we'll realize that's not enough. It doesn't matter what it is, who you are, what your goal is, when you achieve it, if you achieve it. We want more than what we're ever going to be able to get here. And this is the desire for heaven, the desire for infinity, the desire for God that's written in the human heart. St. Augustine says so memorably, you made ourselves for you, O Lord. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you. And Fulton Sheen has something similar to say about this quest for ultimately an infinite love. So I want to read you just a couple of passages here from Sheen's 3 to Get Married to sort of apply this analysis to Sylvester Stallone and his desire, his chase for infinity. And it's really this is the same thing that's written in everyone's heart. So this is from, again, 3 to Get Married, and it's the 4th chapter. I know there's a new printing that includes this book with some others bound together. I can't remember the title of that collection. I think it's like Fulton Sheen on the Sacraments or something. And so this book is included in a single, huge, whopping, giant volume. This is one of the books contained in it. So if you're using that edition, it's the 4th chapter. The chapter's called The 3 Tensions of Love. Listen to what my favorite author says. Okay. When satiety comes, or satisfaction comes, the thou disappears in the sense that it is no longer wanted. When longing reappears, the thou becomes a necessity. Loved too much, there is discontent. Loved too little, there is an emptiness. So he's describing, of course, the relationship between husband and wife, the desire to be united with your spouse, and that when you, in a certain way, possess your wife, right, or your husband, it satisfies this desire that's written in your heart, and it is natural and it is good. But for a moment, or maybe for a while, you then can sort of think, okay, well, I don't need that anymore. I don't need them anymore. I don't want them. And then maybe after a time that desire returns, and you sort of are constantly going through this. But I love this line, love too much, there is discontent, love too little, there is an emptiness. So it's almost that when we finally get what we want, we think we don't, it's like we realize we don't need it anymore. But then if it's taken away, then we want it again. It's this constant human struggle. Now listen to this. The answer to this tension is evident. The human heart was made for the sacred heart of love, and no one but God can satisfy it. The heart is right in wanting the infinite. So that desire, that natural desire we have, is a good desire. But we have to know, as Christopher West, a great author, says, we have to know where to aim our rocket ships. We all have this desire welling up within us, but we got to know what to point it at, what the appropriate end for that desire is. The heart is right in wanting the infinite. The heart is wrong in trying to make its finite companion the substitute for the infinite. The heart is wrong in trying to make its finite companion the substitute for the infinite. And here you see the sort of key problem for Sylvester Stallone, for all of us, right? When we think we know what we want to set our heart on, we go towards it if we even can capture it, succeed, whatever. We reach whatever our goal is. A lot of times there's this disillusionment that comes. I don't know how to say that word. There's this sort of disappointment that we thought we knew what we wanted, we achieved it, and now what? I can't tell you that I'm some wildly successful person and I've hit all my major goals in life and then get to the other side of them and look sort of, what was I doing? What was I aiming for? But this is what I kept thinking about as I was watching the Sylvester Stallone documentary. He just one success after another, and he looks and he says, now what? What was I doing? What was I even here for? I want to make one more, or rather read you one more passage from this book that again makes this same point. And this is from, which chapter is it? Unfolding the Mystery, chapter 7. Chapter 7 in 3 to Get Married. So, if love be what the heart wants above all things else, why does it not grow in love? It is because most hearts want love like a serpent, not like a bird. They want love on the same plane as the flesh, and not a love that wings its way from earth to mountain peak and then is lost in the sky. They want a love that, like Cupid, does not grow, a love that dies in order... They want a love like Cupid that does not grow, not a love that dies in order to ascend like the risen Christ, who accepts defeat and conquers it by love. We want, this is what we want, unfortunately, right? And we have to retrain our hearts, retrain our minds. They want the impossible, repetition without satiety. I would say without satisfaction might be a better, his English is a little old. Repetition without satisfaction, which no human body can give. The refusal to surrender the horizontal for the vertical because it demands sacrifice condemns the heart to mediocrity and staleness. But love is no bargain. So he's got this beautiful philosophy or theology, I guess, of the kinds of love that are really operative in the human heart. And of course, in this entire book, he's speaking about marriage. But, marriage, St. Paul says, is the mega mysterion. It's the great mystery that points us towards the love that Christ has for his church and ultimately for each of us. And so he's saying, we want constant repetition, but without getting tired of it. We want this sort of immediate local satisfaction that we can be in control of and keep receiving. And somehow we think that whatever it is, whatever the goal is, right? Whether it's money, what kind of house you live in, what kind of job you have, whatever it is, we set these goals and we think, well, if I can just do that, then I'll be happy. And what Fulton Sheen is pointing out is that that's just never going to work. You can't have repetition without in some way getting tired of it when you're talking about this finite goods that are not going to satisfy this infinite desire. And I do want to say, just really quickly, I love Fulton Sheen, but there's just one part about this quote. He says, they want the impossible, repetition without satisfaction, the refusal to surrender the horizontal, or the sort of immediate, for the vertical, because it demands sacrifice, condemns the heart to mediocrity and staleness. I will give Stallone and many other people credit here. They're willing to sacrifice. Stallone, I'm sure, sacrificed a lot, right? Professional athletes sacrifice a lot. People who are successful are willing to sacrifice. It's not that they're lazy. So Sheen's maybe pushing a little bit much on that. They just don't want, nobody wants to work for it. They want to work, but they're still working for the wrong thing and with the wrong motivation. So this is just a couple of thoughts that were in my mind as I was looking at this, Sylvester Stallone documentary. Took me back. No surprise to anybody that knows me. So probably everybody that ever watches this video actually knows me, because I'm not kidding myself. This is going to be a popular video. 3 to Get Married, one of my favorite Fulton Sheen books, and just wanted to share those thoughts with you. If you have not seen the Sylvester Stallone documentary, it's fascinating and interesting in its own right. And if you have not read Fulton Sheen's 3 to Get Married, I do want to encourage you. I promise you this will not be the last time that I talk about this book, because it's very dear to my heart. It's my favorite author, one of my favorite books, and it really helped me find my vocation to read it. So thanks for joining us for another episode of Stranger Catholicism, and I hope to see all 9 of you in the next video.